watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin, and as I mentioned earlier, it is National Recovery Month, and today is National Sobriety Day, National Sober Day. So this whole episode, we are focusing on awareness of addiction, alcoholism, and trying to turn this, it's something that's kind of negative in people's perspectives into something positive. And I have a very special guest with me today. She was someone that's helped me tremendously in my recovery, and she helps so many people with something she calls Sober Surgeries, which is a business she started a few years ago. Welcome to America Trends, Janice Mulligan.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I'm so happy that you're here. And as I just mentioned in the intro, you definitely have helped me, and I know a lot of people in their journey of recovery. And you have, what, 15 years?
15 and a half.
15 and a half, coming up on 16.
Yes.
But I know we just do one day at a time, so we have today. But so I want to tell people, well, really quickly, I'll tell this story about Janice, that because you started something called Sobriety Rocks, and that's one of your catchphrases, which as someone that's thinking about getting sober or newly sober, for me, I remember hearing you signed a text message to me with Sobriety Rocks, and I wanted to throat punch you because I was like, what are you saying to me? Sobriety doesn't rock. What do you mean? I can't drink. I can't have fun. Oh my God, I thought my life was, over, basically, and how dare you tell me that it's gonna be fun and that it rocks. But now I'm here to say, almost 8 years later, that it does. And I love that message that you carry. So tell me a little bit about your journey, because you've got a great story.
So my journey is I was born into a family where recovery was not in our vocabulary, and I've always just really found myself in situations where I like the effects produced by, putting things into my body, and it grabbed a hold of me. And so, something happened to me when I was 34 years old, where I had an aha moment, but it wasn't time yet, and it would take another year and a half before I got to that jumping off point, where I needed to do something different and make some changes.
And you had been in the military, right? You were a service, so thank you for your service. And you had kids,
yes.
Right? So a few kids,
yes.
Right? And I remember you kind of sharing, like, I don't even remember I had kids because the addiction and it kind of takes hold and it becomes first sometimes. And one of the things I was thinking of is the connotation that people have of someone that is a drunk or an addict or something is like someone with a brown bag underneath a bridge, this old man with scruff, and it's like it could be the mom next door. Yeah. And it doesn't need to look like that. It doesn't look a certain way, but it's when things start coming before your family and your own health, right?
Absolutely. As a mom, and I am a veteran, and the drinking and the other things, I'm a disabled veteran, and so we get to talk about sober surgeries today. Opioids are something that took me to a whole new level of incomprehensible demoralization,
Yeah.
and grasped a hold of me and would stand in the way of my family and my kids for a long time.
Now, let me ask you, were the opioids something that were prescribed to you because of a surgery that you had? And so you were maybe a big drinker and or other things, but then opioids came in the picture because I know we talked about the movie Painkiller and
Right.
this opioid epidemic. So how did that factor into your story?
So I was a big drinker, and I had an injury. And when I had that injury, I was prescribed the opioids, and all of a sudden I realized it was like a six-pack in a pill form, and I could be loaded legally all day at work. And
so that was the mentality, right? Is that
Yes.
if a doctor prescribed it to me, so it's got to be okay because I got it from a pharmacy and it's all buttoned up, right? But then, as we know happens, people then start to abuse it, right?
Yes.
And or start to take it as not prescribed.
Yes, And for me, I almost immediately took it not as prescribed. I mean, it says do not drink alcohol with this. And so
Yes.
I already had the ism, the addiction, you know, brewing inside of me. And so this was just, it would take it to a next level and would grab a hold of me, and I would be prescribed. And, you know, it's, I would manipulate the system for a long time. I would manipulate my doctors and manipulate the system because there was never enough of what I needed.
Right.
You know.
And that's a common story. That word manipulation is something that, you know, I don't think I knew I was doing it at the time, because even just drinking, it was a manipulation of people, places, and things to make sure I could drink how I wanted to. And again, I was the mom, the functional working mom that seemingly had it all together, but I was like making sure everyone thought I had it together. So let's talk about Sober Surgeries, because this is something that's really incredible what you're doing, because it's helping people that are in recovery, but also people that just maybe don't want to risk getting addicted to these incredibly addictive pain meds. So talk to me about how you started Sober Surgeries.
So originally, before Sober Surgeries was ever started, I'll just say that, you know, when I got sober, a couple years into my sobriety, I got pregnant with my fifth child. And so I was 6 months pregnant, sitting across from my doctor, and he told me that I was going to need to take narcotics because I had to have a C-section. And I remember my husband and I looking at him and saying, no, you're going to have to figure something else out. Because I just knew myself after going through everything it took me to go through to get to where I surrendered, that I can never safely use narcotics ever again. I never took them as prescribed, you know, and I wasn't ready to unleash that gorilla ever again.
Right.
So by putting my doctor on the spot, something happened. I came back and he had a plan, and we got to start to discuss the option of having a sober surgery and to recover without the use of narcotics.
So was his first reaction that I don't have an option for you, you just have to do this, kind of at first, right?
In a way, definitely he was, and I wasn't going to take no for an answer.
That's amazing. Good for you. Because I mean, I keep hearing more and more on the show and out in the world with my friends, we have to advocate for ourselves. And particularly in this situation, because especially if the doctor's not a former addict or has much experience with that, they don't quite know the grasp and the severity of the situation.
Yes.
And you did know, and your husband too, which is amazing that you had him on your team.
Yes.
Saying, yeah, we need to do this together. So then they came up with a plan, and you were able to, so talk to me, you know, you can tell me little details on that. How did it work? What was the plan?
Well, so like I said, I had to have a C-section, and so preparing to go into that before, there was a lidocaine ball, an OcuPain ball that they use for abdominal surgeries. It's not the norm for C-sections, but it was something that if you're prepared to use it pre-surgery, it's there. And so when I went in for surgery, they ended up inserting a line into my incision and closing me up, and I had a fanny pack with this pain ball.
Wow.
And it was like a lidocaine ball, and for the next 3 days it would shoot lidocaine into my incision and relieved me of probably 75% of the pain.
Wow.
It was amazing. And so, but that is something that you can't go back on, and I think that's one of the biggest things about Sober Surgeries is the pre and the planning, because had I been in for surgery and all of a sudden this was a thought or in the middle of something, you need to be prepared. And I don't think a lot of people understand that preparation is a huge part of having a sober surgery, that they were ready to do it.
Yeah, because it's also mentally preparing. So let's segue into that with Sober Surgeries, because I was thinking, and I think we had this conversation off air, was, wait, you can't have any pain meds and you got to go cold turkey, and are you just going to, do an incision without anything? And that's not the case,
no.
Right? There are ways to do it. So but you have to do it ahead of time. and get prepared, right?
Definitely.
So what is the first step, would you say, besides hiring you to help people through? And that's what Sober Surgeries does. So people can hire you from anywhere in the country, right? Because you can Zoom people in.
Yes.
So what's the first step?
The first step is to go online and fill out a questionnaire or submit an inquiry, and then I will get in touch with the person who's having surgery. We'll talk about, you know, why is this surgery medically necessary or is it cosmetic? You know.
See, that's a good point. I'm going to hold you there for a second because I think that's happening a lot more in our day and age, right? Is this cosmetic surgery that we don't necessarily need. But anyway, hold on for a second. We've got to take a quick break. Janice Mulligan of Sober Surgeries, sobersurgeries.com, or at Sober Surgeries Inc. on social media. You can find her. And we'll be right back with more America Trends right after this quick break.